All right, y'all, welcome to the show. So, bunch of stuff to get into today. In just a second, the war on the First Amendment is officially here. It is here. It's already gotten ugly. It's going to get even uglier as time goes by. So, we'll talk about that. We will also talk about compliant media. The LA Times was caught yet again censoring criticism, this time of RFK, in order to appease Trump. Then we'll get to the very likely illegal actions behind the scenes of the MAGA robber barons who were betting on a massive stock market crash, and then Trump delivered them that crash. Okay, and then we'll get to J.D. Vance. He went full imperialist. We'll get to an MSNBC guest. This professor absolutely torched MSNBC for bending the knee to fascism. And then later on, in today's America, a doctor can be charged with a felony for prescribing an abortion pill, which of course is legal. Go figure. And Trump is ordering schools to ease sexual assault rules because of course he is. Of course he is. Epstein's buddy is doing Epstein buddy stuff. So we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a big favor and please subscribe to the channel. It's never going to end, man. Over the next 4 years, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of things to talk about. Never going to be a dull moment, but I mean that in the worst possible way. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, we got this news the other day. The Pentagon has informed its resident press corps that NBC, the New York Times, NPR, and Politico will, quote, rotate out of the building to give space to the New York Post, Breitbart, One America News Network, and Huffington Post. Let me explain what this is here. You have some of these media outlets that are like hardcore. They have offices there with a booth and cameras and all that stuff. And they really make a point of having like a whole division of their news agency that is permanently there, right? This is Trump going up to those outlets and going like this. Fuck you. You criticize me. I don't like it when you criticize me. So now we're going to rotate you out when we feel like it, and we're going to bring in, and by the way, look at who they're bringing in. 4 of the 5 are deeply right-wing. New York Post, Breitbart, and One America News are super right-wing. My guess is they threw in HuffPost in there to try to pretend like, bro, see, we brought in HuffPost. This is not an ideological thing, bro. Look, 1 of the 5 is not sucking our nuts on a daily basis. So, and one of these outlets, I forget which one, but one of them didn't even ask for space. Didn't even want to be there. But they said, we're going to kick out NBC, New York Times, NPR, Politico, rotate, and give these right-wing hack outlets some space. Now, the other thing is, I'm sure many of you saw this, but the other day, for the first time in history, you had some new media people in a White House press conference, and you'll never guess what posture they took. They're allowing in new media, and the new media is the most pathetic, sycophantic, Trump-loving garbage you've ever heard in your life. Which, by the way, gives a horrible name to new media and independent media. And as I pointed out to you, a lot of these outlets pretending to be new media or independent media are no such thing. They're not independent. They're online, so technically I guess they're new. But if you're taking the same kind of corporate money, or if you are sucking up to the establishment and the powerful, as all these Trump lovers are, I'm sorry, you are not independent. You're hacks. You're hacks, and you're subject to the same poor incentives as mainstream media and corporate media. You are simply fake independent media or new corporate media. So this is, again, Trump's attempt to put up his middle finger to outlets that are critical of him and say, no, there's going to be consequences for that. Okay. More. So Bernie points this out, and he's 100% right. We've talked about these cases. Authoritarianism is intimidating the media, curtailing dissent, and undermining our First Amendment. Trump has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register for comments that offended him. His FCC is now investigating PBS and NPR. So think about what went down here. He sued all these media outlets for a variety of reasons. One of them, he said, you misleadingly edited a Kamala interview. What? The Des Moines Register, he's suing them because of the Ann Selzer poll, which had him down 4 points in Iowa, which obviously that poll turned out to be wrong. But he's suing as if there's any case there. He's making the argument, oh, that's you trying to rig it for Kamala. But if anything, wouldn't it be the opposite? If you're telling Democrats, hey, Kamala's up, they'll be more likely to stay home. So that makes no sense. But a lot of these outlets, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, are preemptively caving to Trump, and they're settling with Trump. CBS paid him, what was it, like $15 million over a totally frivolous lawsuit? You have others that are trying to basically settle with him and give him millions of dollars. And what do you think that is, ladies and gentlemen? When a media outlet that's supposed to tell the truth, supposed to do journalism, supposed to fearlessly, blaze their own path and not muzzle themselves, what do you call it when they want to meet with the president who's suing them to settle and pay that president millions of dollars, even though they know that lawsuit is frivolous? To me, that looks like pay to play. To me, that's, hey, dog, be cool. We'll give you some money, but make sure you don't axe our credentials. Make sure you don't, whatever, send the IRS to audit us. Make sure you don't crack down on us with any of the levers of power of government that you have available. That's what that smells like to me. So in other words, the authoritarianism, and people didn't account for this. The authoritarianism, yes, it comes through, hard dictatorial fiat, but it also comes through compliance. It also comes willingly by these so-called news agencies going, hey, we'll play ball. Hey, we'll play ball if you play ball. Maybe we'll go a little lighter on you. Maybe we won't cover so many negative stories. Maybe we'll do a whole bunch more positive stories. If you're cool, hey, here's a little payment. Allow us to keep coming into the Pentagon. Allow us to keep coming to the White House, press briefings. Hey, we're not all that bad, are we? We're not all that. This is what we're witnessing. This is what we're witnessing. So again, to reiterate, NBC, New York Times, NPR, and Politico, by the way, outlets that are already sort of preemptively in many respects playing ball. Trump looks at them and goes, you're not playing ball enough. Rotate your ass out of the building. I'm going to bring in all these hack right. One American News and Newsmax are the two outlets that were most dedicated to flat out lying in favor of Trump. They're the ones who were leading the charge. Rigged election, fraudulent election, the 2020 election. It was rigged. They were leading the charge, lying. Many of them had to pay out to one of the voting machine companies that sued them over defamation. And the biggest liars, the biggest ball coddlers, now they're being treated as if they're more prestigious and as if they're the more serious ones. This process that we're witnessing is slowly but surely the destruction of the media and the First Amendment and free speech and free protest. So, hey, you're critical of us? Get out. We'll bring in the ones who are less critical. And also, I have all these lawsuits against all these different media outlets, frivolous lawsuits. But it's basically I think they know the scam that they're running. They know, hey, there's a chance that these media outlets will settle out of court because they don't want to have to pay $10 million in legal fees. So what if they just pay me $5 million as upfront in a deal? And they know that, if they pay me, that might get them out of more trouble. That might make it so I won't crack down on them so hard, and I won't audit them with the IRS, and I won't take a look into their government contracts, and I won't, fill in the blank. But this is what we're witnessing, and this is absolutely devastating. So guys, the war on free speech, the war on the First Amendment, the war on the media is alive and well. We are witnessing out-and-out fascism. And the thing that drives me crazy about all of this was foreseeable. The thing that wasn't foreseeable is the outlets going to Trump up front and saying, hey, if we break you off with a little bit of money, we good? That was not foreseeable. I thought there'd be some semblance of dignity and integrity and virtuousness at these outlets, these legacy outlets. Wrong. They're all playing the game. They're all willing to, genuflect at the altar of the authoritarian president. But we knew that there was going to be a war on the First Amendment and on the press. And the reason I say that is because of Trump's fucking record. Guys, we just talked about, he sued Ann Seltzer for a poll he didn't like. He sued CBS for how they edited that Kamala interview. He sued Simon & Schuster, the book people, because they released a Bob Woodward book that had a quote Trump didn't like of him in there. I mean, petty authoritarian is just the beginning of it. This guy threatened to de-license news outlets that criticized him. He says we should punish flag burning with a year in jail. That's wildly unconstitutional. He sued CNN for $475 million because CNN called his election denialism the big lie. Even before he was president, he sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a joke. He said repeatedly that he wants to, quote, open up the libel laws to go after journalists that he doesn't like. He called for jailing journalists who reported on the Supreme Court abortion ruling early. He's already signed orders to deport pro-Palestine protesters who might be here on a visa. He gag-ordered the EPA from telling the truth on climate change. He muzzled them. He arrested 6 journalists and charged them with felony rioting. You all know he didn't pardon Assange or Snowden or Daniel Hale. He openly said he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy U.S. troops against George Floyd protesters and shoot them in the leg. And of course, this is the man who said, I'm going to terminate the Constitution, all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution to get back in power when I lost in 2020. This is what he said. So the media looks at all of that and they say, we got to bend the knee. We got to cave. We got to give him some money. We got to lighten up. And that explains why we are where we are now. It's one thing to have the overlord, emperor, god, king, authoritarian, tyrant, dictator go after you. That's one thing. It's another thing to preemptively bend the knee in hopes that he'll look at you and go, oh, they're playing ball now, so I guess it'll be all right. Or put out some more positive stories or reel in the criticism just a little bit. That is, the whole system is rotten and corrupt and disgusting. And we're all witnessing it right in front of our eyes. It's all happening right in front of our eyes. So if you had hopes of a brave press standing up and telling the truth, if you had hopes of people sticking to their values and having dignity and honor and integrity and leading the charge for righteousness and accuracy in reporting and facts, man, you are mistaken. Because this tantrum that Trump has thrown year after year, day after day, vis-a-vis free speech and criticism of him from the media, the tantrum worked. They're paying him. They're muzzling themselves. They're trying to do more positive stories. They're trying to keep the government off their ass. Everybody's playing ball. Every official serious person is playing ball, and the majority of the new media hacks are all on Trump's nuts anyway. It's a dark, dark place we're in, man. It's a war on the media. It's a war on free speech. It's a war on the First Amendment. It's never been more obvious, and perhaps the cherry on top, which is the most disturbing, is that at the same time all that's happening, what I just described to you, Trump and his little sycophants pretend like they're the believers in free speech. And they're the ones who are telling the truth. And they're the ones who are most pro-freedom, right? They crusade like we are the free speech warriors as they back a president who engaged in the most obvious war on free speech and the press of all time. Don't let them gaslight you. Do not let them gaslight you. And remember these facts so you understand just how dark the current situation is that we're in. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.